You're tuned in to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show with your host, myself, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I am a multi-million-dollar business developer. I have developed business and real estate around the world, and I want to share with you my mental strategies, my technical strategies, and how I made it in the world of business. So I don't teach theory. I tell you about my life and introduce you to people who can also share with you what they've done to become successful. This is a practical show. This ain't a theory show. You don't want to miss it. So stay tuned.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the Bible...
You belong to yourself. You're an independent people, created from the nation of free people. Yes, sir. You don't need to go nowhere but to yourself. Yes, sir. There will be a great separation. Yes, sir. So I said, it is on now.
college is meant to prepare you for your future. That the time dictates that if we don't do something for ourselves as a people, we will be destroyed. And the aim of the enemy right now is to take us out.
We have God with us. We have Him as our guide. Yes, sir. We don't have to stand around here and ask the question, what must be done? Yes, sir. Get up and let's go and do something. Yes, sir. We cannot sit down. We cannot lay down. Yes, sir. We must get up. Yes, sir. And go to work.
Do you know what real joy is in life? Visioning something and bringing it into reality. That's real joy. Do you know what the next step in joy is? Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity.
Tonight, you need to fasten your seatbelts. We're going to hear from some of the greatest minds in the world. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of trusting our future and the future of our children into the hands of those who don't love us. I believe we need to revitalize black leadership.
Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to the Mind of an Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad, and did y'all know, in the words of my good brother Shermann Dilla Thomas, that everything dope about America comes from Chicago. And I want to introduce you to the brother who coined that phrase. We're talking about a powerful Chicago urban historian, and he's got some powerful tours. He's going to tell you all about it. But listen, it is time for us to make our urban centers around the country part of the Black historic renaissance. Let's create a renaissance when it comes to Black urban history, instead of us always being the vortex of violence. So let me bring in a video, because I want to tell you all who this brother is, because a lot of y'all DM'd me and said, wow, I'm so excited about this. I'm excited. But then you kind of don't really know who he is. And I think when you see this video, I think it's about 2 years old. It's going to give you some depth into exactly who that brother is. So I'm going to take myself off the screen and I'm going to put this on and let you check him out. And then I'll bring him in. Okay. All right. Let me see y'all active in the chat. Bring in your questions and let's go.
You're working. You're
Uh-oh, you guys. It looks like we have no sound. I don't know why.
I'm changing perspective.
So I'm going to stop this.
A lot of times when you think about his story,
he's going to have to tell you about himself because we don't have no sound. I was trying to finagle it, but we won't worry about it. Let's bring our brother Sherman in. Come on in, brother Sherman. How you doing?
I'm excellent. Very honored to be speaking to you, Sister Muhammad. I would like to start off to apologizing to your audience for being in the car. Recently, we struck a deal to have my merchandise sold in O'Hare Airport. And today was the only day I could meet with the vendors in Michigan. And what I didn't account for is that there's going to be a time zone switcheroo when I go to Michigan and come back and go to Michigan and come back. Because I got the utmost respect for what you do and what you guys have going on over there in the powerful stories that you tell and that you're willing to tell. So I sincerely apologize for being in the car. I had every intention of being in my home and having this discussion with you.
That's okay. This is the beginning of a long-term relationship. We got a lot of work to do. So I know our teams will be converging, and our audience and your audience, they'll get a chance to get to know you and vice versa. So thank you. I was attempting to show a video that talked a little bit about how you got started. And so I'll just have you tell it. I was trying to save you some words, but how'd you get into this?
Well, that's a really awesome question. I started, I guess, becoming a public historian because of an app called TikTok. I have 7 children. And at the time, I had an 8-year-old daughter that was being introduced to the app. And she was, begging me to get on it. But we don't let our kids get on social media until 13. And until also until we have a little long conversation. So I allowed her to put TikTok on my phone. And then together we could kind of share in that experience.
Right.
And what I noticed was that it was only negative Chicago stories on the app, and so to just so that she would know what about the city she's from, I started putting positive Chicago stories out. They kind of took off, and that led to a desire to show the spaces where some of those stories had taken place. So we started Chicago Mahogany Tours before my fraternity brothers.
Wow. So you went viral. How long ago was this?
I would say that occurred right about November of 2020.
And you went so viral that now you're monetizing it, and you're going to be welcoming tourists into Chicago with your merchandise at O'Hare Airport.
Yeah, absolutely. The best part about it is that it's positive Chicago activations. And so whether you're in Chicago to stay, whether you're doing a connecting flight, we want you to know that we're not what the national media says that we are, even what our local media says that we are. We're a thriving city that has helped innovate some of the greatest things in this country.
I'm right with you on that. I was talking to somebody earlier, and one of my friends, she said, "Oh, Chicago urban historian meeting the urban historic preservationist." I said, "That's what I'm talking about." I said, "We're going to build this history up and let Chicago become the vortex for Renaissance, for culture, instead of always being the vortex of violence," which is absolutely just a misnomer. I mean, bad things happen, but it's not all of who we are.
Correct. And then not only that, it's where do we learn these violent behaviors from? What's being emulated, right? Like, what is a gangster, right? There are no such thing as gangsters where we come from as a people, right? Like, that's learned behavior, and then these gangs get formed in defense against other ethnic gangs, and when you don't have structure, things spiral out of control. So that's that on that part. But then what I say on my bus every week is I say that Chicago's a city with 2.6 million people. And on Chicago's worst weekend, 50 people may get shot. Now, I hate that anyone gets shot. I want that number to be 0. But if I owed you, sister, $2.6 million, and I said I'm going to keep $60, you're not going to bat an eye. And so how come we never talk about the other 2.5 million, whatever, folks in Chicago that is going to work, that's taking care of their children, that's participating in things to try to uplift the city? And then maybe that'll become attractive to the other side of the city that is participating in things that we all don't certainly approve of.
That's right. Yeah, I agree 100%. I can't wait off. I have my alerts on, so when you post, I can get in there and learn something. And like you, with the preservation of this house and building of the museum and starting the Coalition of Black House Museum, I've become a voracious historian. I've always loved history, but I saw you reading and I was like, oh yeah, I'm right with him on that. I'm always checking out books and learning and doing more. What has been the most exciting thing, or one of the few most exciting things that you've learned about Chicago history since you've been doing it?
That's a very loaded question, right?
I know, right?
It changes so much. One of the things that I appreciate subtly learning was the fact that where John H. Johnson came from, a spot in Arkansas, they didn't allow African Americans to go to high school. So he doesn't come to Chicago till he's about 14 and 15, thereabout. And so his mom made him go to 8th grade again because he couldn't sit at home. That was something she cared that much about education. She wanted him using his brain, and just learning that as a part of his Chicago journey was fascinating. But it also speaks to what he became, and that willingness to do it again until you got it right. He learned from his parents. You know, some things I learned about Chicago history, right? Some of the infamous things, right? Like we learned about the Trumbull Park riot or the Cicero riots, but there's another one called the Airport Home riots that happened before both of those in temporary housing structures, and it happens maybe 10 years before King even comes to Chicago in that same neighborhood. So sometimes I learn those things, and it's eye-opening but not so fun. But then in other situations, like I learned how the Puerto Rican homies invented the Jibarito sandwich here in Chicago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a Chicago invention, right? I learned that the time zones were set in Chicago, you know, on the corner of Jackson and LaSalle. You learned that multiple ethnicities have been here for a very, very long time. There was, you know, black congregations and black neighborhoods as early as 1844 in Mass here in Chicago. So I'm learning those things. But then because I speak in multiple spaces, I learned the history of how the Asian Americans were able to step aside the Chinese Exclusion Act to still get in Chicago via certain Chicago lawyers. And so, you know, all those things have been cool to learn.
That's powerful. You know, I find it so intriguing that we're right here just living on top of all of this history, and we don't even know it exists. It's been hidden from us for so very long. One of the things that intrigues me as a businesswoman is just all the incredible business ventures and things like that happen here, like Anthony Overture and, you know, the John H. Johnsons of the world, and just learning about Black business people. Somebody was telling me that there were 12 or 13 Black hotels in Chicago before the Dan Ryan went right through the center of the Black community.
Yeah, absolutely. There was, if you read, there's this hotel called the Vincennes that Langston Hughes liked to stay in when he was here. And of course, it was off Vincennes. And then just, you know, Herman Roberts and the Herman Roberts Road showing his motels and hotels that were located right on what they call South Parkway. Today we call it King Drive. Mm-hmm. And because of the restrictive covenants, and because, you know, Black folks could, you know, maybe shop at walk in and do pickup in Marshall Fields and Montgomery Ward, but you certainly couldn't try anything on or walk around the stores or go to those nightclubs down there. And so not only did the Black folks have those hotels, but they also, those lobbies would be performances where you got a chance to see Duke Ellington and, you know, Nina Simone and so many others. Since you couldn't go downtown, they would come to you in Bronzeville. Mm-hmm. So I'm right there with you as far as like what we're missing. There were not only that, but just there were African Americans that had like participating in owning their own Black airfield coming out of Bronzeville. You know, those are things we certainly aren't taught in school. Everybody learns the lie of Miss O'Leary's cow in the fight, right? We talk about White City Amusement Park and that dang on World's Fair ad nauseum. Mm-hmm. We don't talk about Jesse Binga's bank. And it was actually Jesse Binga's bank that created Chinatown because they wouldn't loan Asian Americans no money either. So a white dude was borrowing the money from Jesse Binga and then selling the property to Asian Americans after he bought it. But you need the money to do that, and that was the Bingham State Street Bank that did that.
Tell us about Mr. Bingham, because I don't think a lot of people know about him.
Yeah, Jesse Binga, what we would refer to him as, like a great migrator, comes to Chicago. Right. And the first ever, what we would call like the Black underlord, is a gentleman by the name of Mushmouth Johnson. He's one of the people that invents policy, or what we today call the lottery. And so not only that, he put Big Jim Colissimo on. So it was his money that helps create the alleged, right? I'm saying allegedly, don't come get me. The alleged Chicago outfit, right? Mm-hmm. And so he had a lot of money. And when he died, he left it to his sister, and his sister married Jesse Binga. And with that money, Binga, so that's what Binga got his money from. Okay. And Binga started the Binga State Street Bank. And, you know, banks at the time, savings and loans, wasn't going to loan Black folks anything to start a business. It's the Binga Bank that establishes the Supreme Liberty Life Insurance Company and so many other things. But the Great Depression happens, and then not only that, we in the community are shifting from Republican to Democrat here in Chicago. And so through some policy and some tricksters, he gets locked up for some felonious charges. He ends up beating the charges, but coming out of that, he loses everything. But he ends up getting a job as a janitor, and he just lived the rest of his life in Chicago and would advise African Americans who are starting businesses.
Mm-hmm. I was reading a book the other day that had a list of the Black landowners that existed before 1850, and it was fascinating. I know some of the streets have changed, but these were buildings and properties right in the center of the city.
You know, a lot of people don't know that Jones Commercial is sitting on property that was owned by a Black man, John Jones. And in fact, when he died, he donated that property to the Chicago Public Schools. So
Right.
Jones Commercial is sitting on his land. Of course, Joseph Hudlin, first Black guy to have a house built in Chicago. And then his daughter and his family, they go on to become luminaries in Chicago. So you're absolutely correct. We were here pre-Civil War. Not huge numbers, although Chicago itself was small. So Chicago got a population of, say, 200,000 during Civil War.
Right.
Might have been 500 of us.
Right. But they were significant. One of my virtual heroes is Annie Malone, and she had that whole block of property, which was then on South Park, that's now Martin Luther King Drive. People don't know she actually invented the weave and the pressing comb, and she actually was the first Black female millionaire.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people. C.J. Walker got a lot of. The name is escaping me right now, but she learned a lot from another Chicago luminary who also had a property on South Parkway, which we call King Drive now.
Yeah. This is just powerful history. Tell us about your tours and what are the goals that you like to accomplish in your various different tours. I'm gonna put the website up here.
Yeah, so we run Chicago Mahogany Tours, and what we do is we take people on engaging and enriching neighborhood tours. We will pick you up downtown. We ain't doing downtown. No, we only really do South and West Side, and we'll do Rogers Park, Uptown, and Edgewater, and that's because they have very rich and dense multi-ethnic histories. You know, we do Bronzeville, right? We take you by, you know, we go by the minister's house. We also show you where Muhammad Ali lived, or we may go down Lake Park and show you Muddy Waters' house. We help you identify and date architecture, but we really look at the space as asset-based. So we do talk about restrictive covenants and redlining and contract buying and how that affected the built environment. But we also, like I said, we talk about the assets of the space. You know, if we're in Roseland, we're stopping at Old Fashioned Donuts. If stores are open, we go to Sip and Save. We try to uplift spaces with tourism to highlight the South and West Side.
Yeah, that's very powerful. A lot of people talk about how in these urban centers that where, of course, we were redlined and we lived, they later drove the highways right through many of these neighborhoods, like in Chicago, you know, the Dan Ryan right through there. What is some of the history that was lost as a result of us not documenting that history before it was bulldozed over to put the highways in?
That in and of itself is a powerful statement, because it takes extensive research just to see a picture of some of the blocks that existed before we had the Dan Ryan. There is a little better chronologization on 290, but not much. But to your point, what happens is, in order to wipe away the fact that Black business owners lost, that we lost a tax base, that it contributed to white flight, they didn't take no pictures of what was there before they knocked it down. And so you lose that history of what was there. And then when you lose that history, you lose who was there. So not just what was there, but who ran the mosque there, who ran the church there, who ran the factory there. And there's no pictures of it that identify like the signage. There's no pictures of it that gives you the old address. You're not like you or I who does real in-depth historical work
Right.
to dig through repositories, you can't find those images. And we all know if you can't see it, then it really didn't happen. And
right.
so that certainly occurred very much. A lot of people don't know about the State Street Stroll, right? What all those many-owned black businesses that's now the campus of IIT. When you don't have those images and when we don't. And so it's important that we, like you said in the top, we got to start recording and preserving it all.
Yeah, one of the things that concerns me, I was actually on a call today with a friend of mine who's a subcontractor for Microsoft. And so we were talking about building infrastructure so that we can begin to document and using our city as the model, since there are factions of us here that are doing different things. I see some of us in the chat. I think it's critical for our young Black students, Chicago public schools, charter schools, Muhammad University, different schools, for them to come and learn. And I know you do work with the school systems. What is the reaction of the children as they take these tours and learn about this great history?
You know, particularly our black teenagers, they gotta be so tough everywhere, right? They try to hide that they are influenced, man. But I get a lot of messages. Hey, Brother Dilla, thank you for that. I didn't know Louis Armstrong lived over here, but not only that, just the fact that that place matters. Like, it starts there. The reason why the kids name gang sets after people who were killed is because they care about history. And they want you to know that that person lived there before, right? That's a historical marker. So we point out other historical markers that are in those neighborhoods. They're shocked. You know, they go by Victory Monument every day, but they don't know exactly what that is on 35th Street. And when you help identify that some of this stuff is in honor of black folks, when you help them understand some of the things that we were gypped out of, and right when you tell them what the Robert Taylors were, and the fact that Robert Taylor was a gentleman who would have been disgusted that projects were named after him because he resigned in protest of segregation of housing projects, right? And you know, they're amazed. One of the first questions I get is, why haven't anyone told us, right? Why aren't we learning this in school besides being on your tour? And then they always send me something in the name of civic pride. And I think if you respect the space, you act better in that space. And so you start to have respect for their neighborhoods, and that means a lot.
Yeah, that's powerful, because I think oftentimes we think that they're not paying attention and it doesn't really matter, but I think it does matter, and I think it does make a difference. And things that even people from our era, they just don't know. When I first started building the Elijah Muhammad House, I can't tell you how many people said I had no idea that house was literally the headquarters of the nation. They just didn't know. And then I find people from the broader community who don't look like us, who know more about it oftentimes than we do. I've learned something from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, man, they come. Sometimes we'll see what we refer to as ethnic white get on the bus, and they may be blues historians, right? So, and then they're able to say, oh yeah, this is where Bo Diddley lived. This was the block that Ma Rainey, this is where Black Swan Records did their Chicago recording. And it, again, because sometimes our history is whitewashed or not completely told, you're right. Sometimes I don't know, right? I didn't know that Harry Pace had an imprint of Black Swan here where he recorded records. That was news to me, and it was certainly not a black person that taught it to me.
Yeah, I was so embarrassed when somebody who wasn't black told me. They said, Curtis Mayfield is from Cabrini Green. Yeah. And I call myself loving music and loving, Curtis Mayfield, but I find that out and I go back and listen to the impressions and Jerry Butler. And then as I'm working on this project to help preserve the history of Reverend Dr. Lewis Rawls, Sherman, the history that just bubbles up like it's nothing, like the Joe Louis Milk Fund being started, and then the United Negro College Fund from that church, and then things like the choir that had Curtis Mayfield and Jerry Butler and the Staple Singers and all these people. And I'm just blown away as I'm just listening to the history, and then reading some of the documentation, it just really just blows me away. And when all we think about is just one or two things. Yeah, we all know Lou Rawls, and he's the great Grammy Award winning singer, but look at that rich history that he comes from.
Not just, I love that you say that, because there's this thing called the proximity of greatness.
Mm-hmm.
So when Lou Rawls is the standard, you got people chasing the standard, right? And that lends itself to your greatness. And so if Curtis Mayfield is recording records here on Stony Island, you need background singers. Well, you got to be a really, really good background singer to be singing with Curtis Mayfield on the record. And then that spawns other careers, right? So I love how you say the history leaps out at you. Sometimes I'll be doing research about a neighborhood or about something else, and on that same page in the Defender or the Broad Axe or the Sun-Times or the Archives of the Tribune, it's like casual history just chilling, sitting there all in your face. Like, what do you mean Duke Ellington was sitting on the corner of 35th Street playing? Like, what?
Like, what?
It's sitting right there. And then it totally turns your research. Now you're chasing and hunting that down,
Yeah, then I end up with so many books out, and in between things, I'm like, I got to get back to that. I was telling somebody, Sherman, the other day, she was saying, I really want to help you with this preservation, and let's start monetizing. I said, I got to warn you, because these ancestors, they jump out at you and make themselves known when you least expect it.
Every single time, I was finding about ancestors in the Morgan Park neighborhood when Morgan Park was a village, and they were celebrating the oldest African American woman lived to be 101, and it's stuff that you wouldn't think about. Casually looking at other things, I would sometimes discover folks who start certain Greek letter graduate chapters, or like they graduate from Hampton and come here and then do grad school, and then they go somewhere else and plant that flag. It was a lot of things that I was learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was. One last thing I'll tell you. I was at, this summer Rhymefest had the filming of his video, and we were all at over on South Shore on the beach there, and the little placard of the riot in 1919 about the black boy that got attacked. Yep. And there's a little bitty placard right there, and we're just all staring at it like, who knew?
And even that, I'm working very hard to change that, because while King's words that a riot is the language of the unheard is very waxing poetically, what happened to brother Eugene Williams was not a riot. He was minding his business, and a drunk returning from World War I veteran, mad that African Americans had stockyard jobs, was throwing rocks in the lake, and they hit his head and he drowned. Yep. And because of the same type of politics we see today, so Big Bill Thompson was a Republican. This is pre-switch, of course, and the governor at the time was a Democrat. And the only reason that 675 blacks were hurt and 25 were killed is because this Republican didn't want to call a Democrat and call in the National Guard. And at any time he could have did that and totally, stopped all that violence that was happening. They didn't do that, right? We still see some of that stuff today. But then, taking it further, right? That guy retires. He lives to be, I don't know,
that's right,
80. He has a bungalow that's still standing in what we refer to as Grand Crossing today, right? And so, then there's that end of the spectrum.
And then they go on with their lives, right? As if nothing ever happened.
Started right and get, thousands of blacks were homeless. When we talk about the 1919 race riot, we typically only say, and that's partly, I believe, purposeful. We typically only say, 35 people lost their lives, 25 African-American, 38. 25 African-American, 13 non-African Americans. Well, the 13 non-African Americans, 10 of them lost their lives in defense of a black life. So a black person had a knife on them or a gun on them, and when they tried to attack them, they defended themselves. And there were, like I said, over 650 injuries. But then also they were burning houses. So another 5,000 were homeless, right? About 700 properties were bombed out. And what did that do to generational wealth following behind that, right? What happened to those families that got burned out, right? What, of course, is actually that changing? And, you know, it's sometimes very, it's the opposite of shocking, right? I'm like, what, you shocked that there are issues in the hood if you're paying attention to what the hood is going on? I for one, and you better be happy it ain't worse. Like, they just like, want to destroy everything they see because it's certainly been treated worthless for decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right, and it's just time that we own and monetize and start telling these stories. Even in doing research for the Elijah Muhammad House Museum and going back to the original builders, and it was Mr. William French Burroughs Sherman who was one of the founders of the Libby's Food Company. They were meat packers. Mm-hmm. They hung out with the Swifts that live over there at the Swift Mansion and helped to start the hourly wage for Black people. We had those signs up and down the Mason-Dixon line. Well, you don't have to sharecrop. Come on up here and we'll put you to work. We'll give you an hourly wage. You don't have to worry about it. And in fact, about it, we'll give you some of this canned food so you don't have to go home and cook. And it was like really the start of the whole fast food corporate culture.
Yeah.
Got us now married to our jobs and to our revenue streams.
Yep. We'll be here another 10 minutes to start talking about.
Okay, so the tours, you got any, what can you tell us about the tours? I'm going to put this up here so that people can come out and sign up for your tours. They can go to the website, right?
Yep. Please go to our website. We have tours typically every Saturday and Sunday. Like I said, we do Bronzeville, we do Pullman. We also do private tours. So if you have a corporation or company that wants to do group outings, I am a CPS vendor. We do a lot of family reunions in the summertime. So we would love to take you out on the bus.
Okay, awesome. And I'll see you this weekend on one of the tours. Let me know what time and we'll get together and do this again. And I'd love to have you over to the house and share some great history with you.
Oh, yeah. Let me know. I certainly will be in touch, and I'm honored. And thanks for having me.
And thank you for jumping on. I know your schedule has been crazy because you and I can talk for hours. So
yeah, I'm busy. I still got a full-time job. I am busy, but I ain't too busy for those doing dope stuff. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a blessing. Thank you, Sherman.
Hey, thank you. Peace.
We'll see you this weekend.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, y'all. That's just a little taste. I'm sorry the sound wasn't working and you and brother had to be in the car, but such rich history. And the idea is there's so many of us that are working to preserve iconic Chicago history. And the idea is to really build this strong infrastructure, become known for this, and to take this around the world and spark this type of historic preservation around the world. So I thank you all for joining in. I thank you all for listening. I hope that if you listen for a few minutes, it gave you just a little bit of inspiration to document your own history. Listen, get a journal, start writing it down, learn about your family, and listen. A lot of times we have a lot of folklore in our family, right? Because when we don't really know things, we make up stuff oftentimes. And that's just a result of our history being stolen from us. But if we're writing down the truth and we're really taking our time to dig through the truth, I think we can unmine just a real rich treasure trove of history that will help us as we move forward in our lives. You all hear me say all the time, when you go to the doctor, the first thing they do to help find a cure, they give you a history and physical. So they got to know the history in order to design your cure. You go to an attorney, first thing he's going to want to know is what's the history of the situation, because he needs the history in order to help defend you legally. So history is really, as you saw with the video at the beginning with the minister talking over the images of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House, best rewards the researcher. And I could go on and on and on about that. I won't. But anyway, so make sure you see scrolling across the bottom, make sure you support the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House, order your commemorative Elijah coin. Please become a sponsor. You can send an email to sajdahhouse@gmail.com to learn about what sponsorship opportunities are available. And then join us Saturday on the Sajdah Saturday Morning Coffee Talk at 6 a.m. Central Time. And we're going to be talking about the proper handling of people. We're doing it for conscious entrepreneurs, sort of from a conscious entrepreneur standpoint, but it's the proper handling of people as taught to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the idea is for us to begin to fold these principles into our everyday lives as entrepreneurs and into our businesses so that we have a different way, a new way, a better way to do business than the old business models that we're trying to get away from. So let me see what y'all doing in the chat here. Sister Sandra said, Chicago has a rich history, born on the west side and grew up on the south side. Okay. We got Sister Aletha in here, Sister Layla, Sister Betty. Hey, Mom. I see you all on here. This was a really powerful statement that brother made. Proximity of greatness, right? So think about what you're doing when you're becoming great and you begin to scale your business and scale what you're doing. The idea is then you're going to go and find great people. And then next thing you know, you got this circle of greatness. And that's what I mentioned when I spoke to the city council a couple years ago. I said, let's make Chicago the Renaissance for Black culture and Black history. Let's be the example. And let's stop being, I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face, known for being the vortex of violence. Let's put up, they can keep reporting all this stuff, but let's put up something different. And let's get people involved in this great history that we have here in the city. So, okay, y'all, with that, tune in. Make sure you like and subscribe to the page if you like this. I got a little gift every week when we're going over the proper handling of people. I try to give you a little gift, a little video, because the idea is, let me just say it like this. People, we are at war. Our history is being destroyed. We got people playing right in our faces that are in these political parties, and they don't mean us any good. We got to start doing for self. We have to sometimes look past some of the transgressions of our own people, and let's just keep going. Let's not be excessive critical of one another. Let's just keep pushing. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep looking forward. We have to remember that we got a whole set of people looking to monetize and control our dollar. Dr. George Fraser likes to say it like this. He said, white folks ain't thinking about you. He said, they thinking about their family, their education, their children, and your pockets. And why is that? Because our culture is monetized all around the world. And so I'm grateful for those who don't look like us, who have stepped up to say, hey, we want to help. We want to be a part of it. But we also have to do our part. We also have to step up and make sure that we're preserving our history and that we're monetizing it. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to play this little video for you all, and I'll see you all Saturday morning, 6 a.m. Like and subscribe to the page, and you can tune in to all your favorite shows. All right. Peace and blessings, family. Don't go anywhere until after this little commercial.